Right, Fabrice, what are we looking at this week?
All right, this week we're going to be talking about the Asian greens we'll be giving out in a couple of weeks' time.
Great.
So we're growing a really big range of Asian crops to use over the winter
Why are we growing them?
because they make very good winter crops.
Great.
They're hardy and they're tasty and they're easy to grow. And there's a really big diversity too.
Okay, what are we giving out? What are the main ones we're giving out?
So we're basically giving out two groups of Asian greens.
Yeah.
The first group are technically turnip tops. So
Okay.
you wouldn't know it to look at them.
And why
So-
do we call them turnip tops?
I'm calling them turnip tops because they're basically the tops of a turnip, which hasn't made a root.
Okay.
They don't look like turnips, they don't taste like turnips. So, your turnip tops include pak choi.
Oh yeah.
It's a
great.
turnip top.
Mustard.
A Chinese cabbage, which isn't really a cabbage, it's also a turnip top, called Tokyo Bekana. Now that's a loose leaf version of the great big barrel-shaped Chinese cabbages you'll see in the Chinese shop and things. So things like Chinese leaf. There's a loose leaf version, which is much more like a lettuce.
Okay.
Really nice, really productive crop. And then the third one in the turnip top group is Mizuna, which is the fourth one, I've forgotten. The third one in the group is Mizuna,
Yeah.
which is a bit like pak choi, halfway between pak choi and spinach. Super tasty, super hardy, really easy to grow. Quite a large plant if you let it get to full size.
Okay.
And then the fourth thing is Mizuna. So Mizuna is kind of like a salad leaf. It's like almost, it looks a bit like broccoli, but just much,
Have
much
we got a
milder.
sample of it?
We've probably got some Mizuna here. The
Okay.
thing is, all these plants are related, so they all look exactly the same when they come up. So I could tell a lie and say that this was Mizuna. You would be none the wiser. It might even be Mizuna. No, these are actually turnips, but look, you know, it looks like Mizuna at this
Okay.
stage.
Brilliant.
So yeah. So you get these turnip tops things. That's the first group. And then the second group are the mustards.
Yeah.
So the mustards vary in their flavours. Some of them are really, really hot tasting and become quite hot and bitter, particularly as the weather warms up in spring. But over the winter, they're quite mild. Some are just mild, more or less mild all the time. And the thing about the mustards is super hardy.
Mm.
They're some of the best crops growing outside over the winter. And they come in a really, really big range of leaf forms. So you can get very, very frilly things, right through to great big swapping leaves, which can be this big, which can be a foot long and 4 inches across. Yeah, mustards, great outdoor winter crops. The other thing about mustards is I can go through some of the varieties now. So, firstly, there's green and snow, which we may or may not do. Super hardy, great big green leaves. Used to make a Chinese pickle.
All right. So none of these are to put in a salad, are they?
Well, I'll come to what goes
Okay.
in the salad in a minute.
All right.
So,
And
green
what
and
we
snow.
cook.
Traditionally used for a pickle around the Shanghai area, I think, sort of. Green and snow. Then you've got things like the great big red leaf mustards. Again, those you can use to make a South Korean kimchi called gut kimchi. So gut, I think, is just mustard leaves.
Brilliant.
Again, it'll be a spring kimchi. So if you've got this stuff, you've got loads of it because they start to go crazy in the spring, these plants.
Yeah.
You can make kimchi out of it.
Brilliant.
Then we've got some of the finer leaved ones. We've still got to sow those. They're just really, really nice in the salad, those ones. So those are the two main groups of Asian groups. We've also got a few other things kicking around. Another one worth mentioning, they haven't germinated yet, they've just been sown, are chrysanthemum greens.
Wow.
So that's actually a Mediterranean plant, but in China and in Japan and Vietnam and in Korea, they've been developed as a winter leafy crop.
Okay.
It's a super, super tasty vegetable. It's really hardy, and in the spring it makes yellow flowers, which though you can eat, can be quite bitter. All these crops, these winter mustards, the turnip tops, and the chrysanthemum greens, they come into their own at this time of year because they like cool weather.
Okay.
If you grow them in high summer or in late spring, they run to seed really fast because they get confused by the lengthening days, saying, now I'm going to flower. They can get bitter and they can get very hot tasting and they don't last very long and can be stringy and horrible. If you plant them in the autumn, this is their season.
Okay. And we're going to be giving these out. And you're going to talk about whether you put them in salads or whether you cook them
Yes,
as well.
I'm going to do that in a minute.
Okay.
So just to tell you what we're going to be giving out, most of these plants, we're sowing them now. So at the moment, they're looking like something like this. And we're
Okay.
now the 3rd of September. So this needs another 2 weeks or so before it's ready to go. So if you're wanting to come and pick these plants up, or get in touch with us for your school, your project, whatever it is, yeah, do it now. Aim to pick your plants up in late September.
Yeah. What, another couple of weeks?
Another couple of weeks. We'll have them late September, early October. The other one we've got is pak choi. We've got quite a lot of that. That's ready to go now.
Okay.
Because that will be, these things grow so fast. This will be, in a few days' time, this will be twice the size.
And we're still doing Tuesday afternoons where you can.
We're still doing Tuesday afternoons, but what I really ought to be doing is contacting everybody and letting them know.
Okay.
Because Tuesday afternoons isn't convenient for everybody, and we supply lots of groups.
Okay.
So giving them, just nudging them to say, get ready to collect your plants and think about how you use them. Right, so we're just going to say a few quick words about how you use these crops.
Okay.
Because sometimes people try and put too many of these in a salad, and then they get a bit disappointed. In the Far East, they don't traditionally do great big Italian and French style salads.
Okay.
So lots of the crops we're talking about would have been blanched. So they've been just dripped in boiling water for a minute or two just to wilt the leaves. So that's how you do pak choi and everything else. You always cut them through, or you stir fry them very, very quickly.
Yeah.
It can be as little as just pouring boiling water over them. The other thing that was traditionally done with them was pickling them. So
as in kimchi and.
As in kimchi, and so on. And that's what I'd recommend you do. If you're using, some of them will work as salad leaves. So the frilly leaf mustards are really great in salads.
Okay.
If you're growing them baby mustard leaves or baby Tokyo Bekana leaves, or even just big Tokyo Bekana leaves, which have grown in the greenhouse, will be very tender and they'll be nice in a salad. But some of these leaves, particularly towards the end of the season, they can get quite tough, they get quite large, they get quite strong tasting, and you're better off cooking them. That'll make them more tender, and it will also damp down the heat level, which can be a problem with the mustards. The mustards can be very, very peppery.
Okay.
So a bit mixed in with other things can be very, very tasty, but a great big salad full of these leaves can be a bit overpowering.
Okay.
So think about how you use them. If you want to use them raw, that's fine. Maybe think of having a strong dressing, particularly when they start to get a bit bitter. So yeah, that's what I'd suggest. Oh, and pickling.
Yep.
Look up pickles. Some of the Asian pickles are very, very easy to make. Kimchi, for example, is much, much easier to do than sauerkraut. So for kimchi, kimchi basically, you need your crop.
Yeah.
You salt it for a bit.
Yeah.
You add your spring onions.
Just salt.
Just salt to start with. You're trying to get the excess moisture out of it.
So you're treating it like an aubergine, where you salt an aubergine to get the moisture out.
Well, yeah, kind of, but it's a completely different thing.
Okay.
You've got a huge pile of greens, you salt it, it collapses.
Okay.
You squeeze the water out, you wash the salt out, and then you've got I'm not sure what salt out anyway. Then you end up with your basic kimchi stuff, and then you add a spice base to it, which is, this is really important, Korean chili flakes.
Yeah.
It doesn't work with anything else. Mashed garlic, mashed ginger, something to get the bacteria working on, which can just be glutinous rice powder or glutinous rice flour or sugar, spring onions, and if you're not vegan, something like anchovy sauce or something a kind of a seafood flavour. And you just mix it up and you're kind of done. Now, it's a bit more complicated than that, but there's so much information about that.
What about the vinegar?
You don't put the vinegar in because it naturally ferments.
Wow.
It's like sauerkraut, only sauerkraut a pain, takes weeks.
Yeah.
Kimchi, 2 days in the fridge.
No.
Yeah. And the other magic of kimchi is, through the agency of the kimchi fairy, everything else in your fridge, including the milk and your fancy yogurts, they'll all taste and smell of kimchi too, as will you. And your sweat, and your loved ones if you touch them. So, and your breath. So, just saying.
But it's good for your gut.
Yeah, it's really, really tasty.
What are we discussing now?
All right. One particular winter mustard we're going to be offering plants of is called wawa tai. So wawa means baby in Chinese and tai means vegetable. So it's kind of a weird thing.
Baby vegetable.
It's a mustard that's not grown so much for the leaves. So the leaves on this are really, really tasty and mild and really, really delicious as a cooked vegetable. What it does is the basal stem of the mustard swells up. It's this huge lump, which looks a bit odd, but is really, really delicious. It's like one of the best veggies on the planet.
Really?
Now, in the UK, it's a bit hard to grow normally, but locally, it seems to grow very, very well.
Around here?
Around here.
Talking Lambeth here.
Yeah, one of our volunteers' friends is ethnic Chinese, but from Vietnam, and she always knew about the vegetable. And in fact, it's this vegetable you get in these little packets you can buy in any Chinese shop. I'll open it and show it to you.
Yeah.
What it is basically,
Oh my.
it's basically, these are the salted chilified strips
No.
of this root vegetable, which is really a mustard. It's basically Chinese breakfast food. You put it on rice, you put it on rice porridge, you can put it in stir fries. It's super, super tasty.
So
But most people, a lot of Chinese people did not know that this was a great big round root thing. Not quite a root, kind of a swollen stem at ground level.
Okay.
From a mustard, because it's traditionally only grown in one province in China, in southwest China,
Right.
which is there, which has got miserable but never very cold winters. So it's kind of
Just like
overcast
here.
and that, yeah, pretty much like last winter.
Just like London.
That's like a Sichuan winter.
Okay.
And we're going to sow them in. We're sowing them now.
Sow them.
We're not planting this. We're planting tiny little seeds.
All right. I was going to say.
We're planting tiny little seeds.
Okay.
They were planted a few days ago.
Okay.
They'll be ready to plant out end of September, beginning of October. And so far so good. When we've planted them out, come April, they start to make this really, really big, March, April, they make a really big swollen stem at the base. And that's the bit you eat.
Okay.
You can also eat the leaves. As I mentioned, leaves are delicious.
Okay.
But if you eat the leaves, you can get a small stem. So you've got swings and roundabouts. So that's one thing. Well, what's that? Chinese breakfast vegetable. Really nice. Buy it in any Chinese shop, but grow your own. It's really nice as a green vegetable that's not pickled.
Excellent. Can't wait to try it.